For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. We're talking about relationships today. More specifically, ended, donezo, over relationships. The past. You know, they say live in the present, right? Look forward. Move beyond. But you know, the reality is sometimes you just can't get over an ex. Whether it was your first love or you were together for 10, 15, 20 years. Sometimes it's just easier said than done to let go. But then there's also the behind-the-scenes things about exes. It's one thing about, you know, trying to block them out of your mind or, you know, unfollowing them on Instagram. You know, there's the memories, right? There's all the pictures that you have at home. There's maybe that thing that they bought you that you actually kind of really love and you feel like you should get rid of it just because that person's not in your life anymore, but you really do love it. Or it's expensive and you don't want to part with it. So I'm going to explain why we're talking about exes coming up on the show, right? It starts right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. All right, so let's talk relationships. Again, more specifically exes, though, right? And so this came about the other week because... all right, so let me set the stage here. I've said many times I'm married. We've been together. It's almost 10 years already. So it's not like it's a new relationship. This isn't anything where it's like I'm seeing somebody. It's like no, we're good. So I know when you're together this long, we know about each other's previous relationships and things like that, right? So I mean, so he'll know the names of... It's not like I had a shit ton of relationships, by the way. I mean, I was so focused on my career. My career really took off when I was I was probably about 23 or 24 when my radio career and then newspaper was about... Oh no, newspaper was first and then my radio career. Either way, they overlapped. So I was... once my career took off in my mid-20s, early to mid-20s, I didn't really focus on guys. I wasn't really big into, as you see people now on social media who are just desperate to be in a relationship. Like, they can't even... The reason that they're saying hi to somebody is because they want it to be a relationship. And, the first thing they're asking is, are you single? Or looking up the relationship status. And to me, that's always a little bit desperate. But anyway, so we know each other's exes, names, and we know kind of the history as to what happened and, why it's no more and things like that. So those are discussions that you have with your partner when you've been together, for a good length of time. So he knows that there's, and that's what I was going to say. There were two people who were special to me, is the way I describe it. Were they quote unquote relationships? Well, it was the closeness of that, but it wasn't, official. It wasn't like a friend with benefits, but it was definitely much more of an emotional connection and attachment. So anyway, there's only two of those people in my life prior to him. And that happened in my early to mid, before I turned 25. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but it was before my career took off, as I just mentioned. So probably before I was 23 or so. One of the guys was when I lived with my parents still. So I hadn't bought my house yet at the time. So that would have been about almost, you know what? He was around when I did buy my house. So because he bought me the entertainment unit in my that I had in one of the rooms. So he was around, let's say 18 and some years ago. Okay, so that's how long ago it was. And then before that I was probably about 20 or 21, and he was around for a really long time as a very, very good friend. He had been in relationships when we were friends, and I was always the fallback person when his relationships would end. And then eventually, at some point, you both kind of come to that realization of, why haven't we, finish the sentence yourself, right? Like, why haven't we taken it to the next level? Why haven't we become serious? Like, why isn't it us? And so, yeah, you get to that point. And so that's what I'm saying, is that it wasn't like an official kind of a thing, but it was more just, we just get, really close. We have this great emotional attachment. He can essentially finish my sentences. That's how often we talked and how much, time we spent together. Right. So it wasn't like this. So are we a thing now? Like, are we doing this? We never had that kind of a discussion. It just kind of, was that closeness. It was that bond, talking every night, So it was an unsaid, I guess, relationship sort of a thing. So anyway, he then decided that, we didn't live in the same city, by the way. So he decided that at some point, we couldn't really see each other all that often, like be in person. So it couldn't be more because, and I said, I've always been one of those people who said, if it's the right person, I'll move wherever. I have no problem doing that. That was also before I had some really nice houses. Now that I own property in different places, I'm kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to think about this. Do I want to, ditch my house for, something over there? So anyway, so we had our, closeness and whatever for quite some time. And then he decided that, okay, you know what? I do kind of need, and I'm one of those people where it's like, if we've already gone past a certain level, I can't undo that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't, then it's all or nothing at this point, because I don't want to hear about now that you're in a relationship and then, discuss your relationship with you, because that's going to crush me, right? Because I was thinking that this is, the long term or whatever it is, and you've didn't feel the same way and you've moved on, right? And now you're going to discuss your relationship with me that I'm probably going to resent and perhaps sabotage and try to ruin anyway, because I'm a good person that way. So he ends up getting into a relationship. Now, at this point, I was kind of like, all right, well, do your thing or whatever. And so that ended with him. And then, as I said, there was the other person who, when I did buy my house, whatever. So I found somebody, and I was kind of like, okay, you know what? It's not the end of the world. He's got his person that he found. I've got this person that I found. All right, good. And we can now talk about each other's relationships, and it's not, threatening, right? It doesn't seem like it's... and then what ended up happening with that guy, the one that when I had bought my house and he was around, he ends up getting, he worked for NASA. So it's not like he was some, just schmo. He ended up moving like around the world. We're not even talking just to a different, I'm moving 2 hours away. No, it's like fucking clear across it was the Europe and beyond. Like it was, and he just said, I don't think that it's fair to us because, it's just too far. And then wouldn't you know it, all these years later, look, I ended up marrying a Brazilian because he listened to me on the radio, which is almost, kind of the same distance away. And we made it work because he ended up moving. And anyway, so NASA dude is around for a little while. And then, gets this. And that's one of those things where it's like, you know what? Circumstances change, right? You get a promotion or whatever it is. And, why would I say, no, don't take it? I mean, that's very selfish of me. Of course, I probably would have, but maybe I did. Now that I think about it, now that I talk it through, I'll have to ask him. But anyway, so none of them really kind of ended on, one of those hateful, like, I'm tearing up all of his pictures, I'm burning stuff that I found that, that he left in my house. Like, it was never like that. Was there resentment? Absolutely. I'm not even going to pretend that there wasn't. But I'm just saying it wasn't, like, I could still, shoot either of them an email or a text. Like, that's, it was... Now, would I get a reply right away? Probably not as fast as before. But it's not like they wouldn't take my, call or email. So, we remained civil, right? We remained friends. So, so the first guy, the one that was the more, emotional, whatever, and then he was like, I can't really do this. He's in a 7-year relationship with somebody, and they, whatever, they're doing their thing, right? Because my career was taken off. I also had this NASA guy, whatever, and then the NASA guy went away, but I was still focused on my career. And it was actually a good thing that the NASA guy went, because I ended up being very busy with the radio shows, traveling back and forth from my hometown of Winnipeg to West Hollywood. And, if I would have fucked up my career, I think, to this day, I probably would be kicking myself just because, he had great job opportunity and I had, an amazing career experience. So, do we have regrets? I don't know. I don't. And I think that he's happy with somebody. I haven't actually spoken with him in a while. But again, like I said, if I ended up just messaging him on Facebook, it's not like he's going to delete me or block me. He would, it might take him a while to respond or see it or whatever, but I'd get a response from him. So, dude number one from my early 20s, he's in a 7-year relationship, it's great, okay, whatever, and we're talking. Now the guy's a bit jealous, so my friend can't call me as often as he used to, and so I just kind of thought, I don't like that kind of a relationship, and that's not just about me, that's, you're in a controlling situation, I just don't like that. I don't like somebody telling me that I can't talk to somebody or that I can't do this. It's like, it's my fucking life. My husband already knows that. If he goes and says, I don't want you going out with whoever tonight, but it's like, fuck you, now I'm going to stay out even longer. That's just how I am. Sorry, but I am. So he's in this relationship. I'm lying in the bathtub one evening, and all of a sudden he calls me. And I thought, this is really weird because we would have to talk in the daytime when the guy was at work. Not that he's being deceptive, not that he's cheating or anything like that, but, he's just, that's their time together, and he wouldn't talk to me in the evening. So I found it strange that he called me, and so I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So he calls me, and we're making chit chat, and and again, in the back of my head, I'm going, oh, why is he calling me in the evening? Something's up. Eventually, he tells me that they broke up, and I was like, oh wow, okay, wow, geez. And then he tells me it was 2 weeks ago, and then he tells me he hooked up with 2 people from his yoga class in that time period. In that 2-week stretch. So, here's the thing. All right. And now I'm going to take off my sweatshirt. I'm going to get fired up again because I'm remembering this. I'm reliving it. So my initial thought was, excuse me? We've known each other for how long? You can finish my fucking sentences. You can practically read my mind. I know exactly when you're in a mood or when you're, whatever, just as you know me. I said 2 weeks and you haven't told me. So what burned my ass was you didn't even think to reach out to me and say, hey, this happened. Hey, I need to talk, whatever. But you found time to go and fuck 2 people in that time period. So you were thinking of ass before you thought of the friendship that's been around. At that time, we had known each other for probably, not quite 15 years. No, maybe about 15 years. Again, finishing sentence. Like, I'm talking just, even by my answer, he knows that I'm in a mood. Like, it's just that, truly, that's how close we were. And so it's kind of weird because I guess you could say that I made it about me, but no, I was just like, let's assess, so I'm sorry, you're just telling me this now. I don't even want to hear what happened or whatever. I mean, the fact is this chaps my ass that you it's not even about going and having sex with somebody else. I'm just saying, you didn't even, in 2 weeks, so strangers just from some randos from your yoga class know that your relationship is over. I'm assuming they either knew him from before or whatever it was. So that was your comfort. That was your consolation. That was what eased your mind after that. Was I'm going to go and fuck 2 people rather than reach out to my good friend, who now I've got freedom because I don't have to just wait to call in the daytime, right? I can call any goddamn time I please because I'm not controlled in that relationship anymore. And so that really kind of sort of burnt a bridge, and it really made me put it all on the line and say, you know what? Every time that you had a breakup, because he was one of those relationship jumpers back in the day when we were both in our early 20s. He was, he needed to be in a relationship. He just needed to have somebody. And when he broke up, I ended up, he lives in Nanaimo, BC, and there's a place called Turley's Florist. Can you believe I still remember this? I looked it up. Now, this is before the days of Amazon and online Uber Eats and shit like that. I ended up ordering flowers for him and sent them to his parents' house. He still lived with his parents, as did I. I sent him flowers. I would even go and send him a card in the mail and write a silly poem. One day, he got it in the mail while I was in the bathtub talking to him on the phone, and I ended up being embarrassed, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go underwater because, I sent you this nice... Sometimes they were funny poems, and sometimes they were, kind of serious, as like, depending on the situation. And, and then he's crying because it was just so sweet and whatever, and I'm sort of embarrassed because it's like, well, you're not supposed to read that with me on the phone and whatever. Like, that's the kind of friendship this was. That's the kind of relationship that we had. Like I said, this was when he was in relationships. That's the kind of friend that I was. And I said, think about how this has always been one way. Not that I had a shit ton of relationships. And admittedly, yes, he was there for me and supportive when I was starting out my career and things like that. But I said, I've always come and visit you. I'm the one who's thinking of doing this shit to make you laugh when you're going through this bad time. I'm the one who's doing that. And I said, and now that's how you treat our friendship. That's how much I mean to you. That's something that it doesn't just slip your mind. Oh, hey, I should call Jeremy because 2 weeks and 2 hookups. 2 people. I don't even know. I should find out. I don't even know how many times that they ended up getting together. I'm just saying that there were 2 randos. And you don't even reach out to me and say, hey, major life change, my relationship is over. That's what burned me so badly. So I put it all out there. I said, like, look, dude, and I, eventually, I don't know if it was the next morning, but it was sometime in the coming days at least anyway. I get this super long email. The subject line was friendship. And he was owning it. The other week on the show I talked about accountability, right? And responsibility. And so he owned it, but it could have just been lip service. I don't know. But I'm just saying, he spelled it out, right? I know that I haven't appreciated, and you've done this, and I do, and I remember this, and all these things. And yes, you have always come to see me. I've never gone to Winnipeg to see you, blah, blah, blah. And so I said, so now what? You've always had excuses for not coming to visit me as though whatever. I said, I own a nice, beautiful house. I've got 2 dogs. You always hear about the dogs. You've never met them. Come on now. Man up. So he ended up booking a trip, a flight or whatever, and he came to Winnipeg, and we reconnected after however many years. And my husband was not in the picture at this time. So this was at least 10 years ago. So he ended up coming to Winnipeg, and we spent 3 or 4. It was a holiday weekend. So I can't remember if he flew in on the Friday, and then he ended up going on the Monday. The weather was shit. It was ice pellets and freezing rain and everything. And I kind of thought, so yeah, we went around the city. We did a bunch of things. I had ended up making it a radio thing because I was on the radio at the time. So I didn't have to pay for most of the stuff. We ended up making it a tourism show because I thought, well, when somebody comes to visit you, right, it's kind of on you to, I got the tickets for this and I paid for the admission and whatever. It's like, I'm not fucking paying for this guy. He rented the car though. I'm gonna rent a car, whatever. I said, good, because, I'm not using my gas and all this other shit to drive. Like, you'll be the navigator and so we ended up spending those few days together. It was really good to, reconnect. And there was a really emotional connection because it was like, it's like we're back, it was just kind of good. So fast forward now, I said that was about 10 years ago. So fast forward now, that, and remember, we also live in Los Angeles. We've got a house in Winnipeg and a house in West Hollywood. So I get a text the other week, 2 weeks ago maybe now, from him in Canada, in British Columbia. And he said, I'm coming to Los Angeles for work. So the last time that I saw him was, 10 years ago. And he said, lunch, like, what's, Now, we haven't spoken, though. This is the thing. We haven't spoken in probably about 5 years. We haven't had an actual phone call because we kind of had a falling out again. Nothing to do with my relationship or anything like that. It was just we had kind of a vicious disagreement about something in life. So it had nothing to do with the relationships. It had nothing to do with it. But it was just kind of we really, really clashed, and it ended up being just kind of like a, And so, I'm one of those people, though, too, that, if time has passed or whatever, it is kind of nice. I think during the pandemic, a lot of people kind of just reached out to somebody they haven't spoken to in a while or whatever. So, so this is somebody who, I still have pictures of us from, when we hung out and maybe did some cuddling photos and things like that. I'm not sitting there and scrolling them all day. They're not on my, immediate phone, but definitely I can go into my office and, put them on, they're on one of those like external hard drive things. And so, I still have them, but they're not on my freaking desktop and my screensaver. It's not like that. And so this is one of those situations where you're in a relationship and you're kind of like, okay, so how do I, how controlling is your relationship, right? Do I just say to my husband, hey, look, he's coming to town. We're going to do dinner. If you want to come, great. If not, no big deal. He's coming for work. So I'm not saying that, somebody's coming and staying at our house. It wasn't, but even then, whatever. If he was going to stay in the house, okay, great. He's not staying in our bed with us, but again, it's no different than if, any other friend is coming to visit, right? Or a relative or whatever. So just because you have a past with somebody, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. And so now, so the word is that, he's coming to town, and our coffee colleagues, the Buff Boys, are all making these, jokes, and it's this like big dramatic, and oh my God, the husband's going to beat up the ex, whatever. It's like, you guys, it's not dramatic like that. But it led to a bunch of questions of, how close is too close? Is it okay to still be friends with your ex? And then secondly, if your partner has an issue with that, is that your partner's issue, or is it a you issue? Is it a relationship issue? If your partner says, you know what, I don't want you hanging out with him, do you take that as, okay, I respect his feelings and I'm going to honor that? Or do you flip that around and go, excuse me, that's a you problem. I can have a friend that I'm going to hang out with. We're not meeting up in his hotel room in Los Angeles. If we want to go for lunch in public with others around, or as I said, you have the option to come with us if you'd like, then great. If not, you can sulk by yourself, and you can be pissed off, and you can, stew in your misery. I don't fucking care. I'm going for lunch with him. You're welcome to come. If not, piss off. And if that causes a problem in your relationship, that's a bigger discussion to have in your relationship. So it led to the question of, when you break up, there are some people who wipe their social media of the person, right? You block them, you delete them. But do you really delete everything? Do you delete all the pictures, or you kind of just maybe move them so they're in a different folder? Or do you just kind of, you're just going to hang on to them just in case? Just in case. Yeah, you want to take a look. I've never been the person to just go and delete them. Because I'm not that I'm a pack rat or a hoarder, but I like to have records of almost everything. All of the different events that we covered during our radio shows, we did tourism programs, red carpets, Hollywood events, premieres, whatever it was. We have all that stuff still. Everything that we did from radio shows, even if it was just behind the scenes crap on a red carpet, we have all of the pictures still. I like having things like that. Family get-togethers. Back in the day, I used to be sort of the unofficial family photographer. So weddings, babies, anniversaries, Christmas, whatever it is, I still have every picture. And that also comes in handy, though, too, right? When there's a when you are doing a 50th anniversary, and everybody's going to call me and ask, you have pictures from such and such wedding? Yep, got them. Hey, can you find some of my dad or whoever it was? Yep. So just because somebody's not in your life, I've never gone and just deleted somebody. I've never done that. I realize that there are people that do that, but do you do that just out of a courtesy to your new relationship if you're in one, or how do you handle an ex? I realize that if it ends on a really messy note, right? Like if they were abusive and they and it was bad, then you're going to block them and, cut it all off. But if all of a sudden, they kind of just reach out of nowhere, yes, you might be in a relationship. And just because they're doing that doesn't mean they want to get back together with you. They don't want, it's not a booty call. It's not a hey, you up kind of a thing. It's just, reaching out. So how do you treat a relationship that ended civilly? There was nothing dramatic. It was nothing scandalous. There was no there was, I guess, heartbreak because a relationship ends and there's going to be hurt feelings. But, it ended just fine. How do you handle that? Is it an unfriend kind of a thing? Is it just, you keep the phone number in your phone just in case you don't have one of those awkward moments of, just the number comes up, I don't know who this is, right? What do you do? Send me an email, live, L-I-V-E, at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com. So I'll tell you about what happened when he came here on the Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
JB here on the Scribble. All right, so your ex comes into town and says, hey, want to get together? Hey, you available for dinner? And you say, okay. So how do you explain that to your partner? Is it just a casual going for lunch with a friend? Is your partner one of those people who's like, well, who's the friend? Who are you going with? Did they make a big deal out of it? Well, my partner, my husband does not. And but the thing is that our coffee guy, the guys from Buff Boy Brewing that live in our main building in West Hollywood, they live in Buff Loft. It was our office space before, and we turned it into living spaces. So, living spaces. People in Los Angeles will understand that. So, I just said to him, like, so-and-so's, reached out, he's coming to town, and, we're going to go for lunch, and, he'll swing by the office, because our building it's hard to explain. It was our office building. It's still where the coffee guys live and work, but then we live in the building. It's not like it's a Three's Company or a Friends kind of a setup. We have our own part of the building, so they don't even know if we're home half the time, and I don't even know if they're home. So it's not like we live with our staff. We don't. So I said, it was a Thursday, or sorry, no, it was a Thursday because we double tape some radio stuff on a Thursday, and I'd said we're going to tape it early, and then I'm going to go and we're going to do dinner. So it kind of changed my schedule a little bit because I would normally tape on a Thursday night. We moved it into the daytime. And so, and sometimes my husband will make plans Thursday evening, go to the gym or whatever it is, just because I'm going to be working and, he'll find something to do. So we kind of shuffled things around, and I taped in the daytime and he did the gym or whatever in the morning and afternoon. And of course, when I say this to the Buff Coffee guys, now you have to remember that they're a bunch of like fucking college frat boys who are trying to, when I go and say, oh, well, my friend is coming to town. Oh, he's my ex. Ooh. And then they're, asking if my husband's going to fight him and all these things. Like, that's kind of what they do. It's joking, but, very juvenile, very college kid. And so they had said, do you want us to, do we have to fight him if he's going to be, and I said, oh my God. Or do you want us to, distract your husband so that you can, and I thought, you guys, really? So because the friend was going to be coming into town and he was going to be coming to our building, I just said to the guys, like, you know what? You're not going to make fun of him. You're not going to treat him like that. Seriously. I heard the jokes that they were doing back and forth. And I said, like when he gets here, you're going to say, hi, nice to meet you. Welcome to California. That's, going to be the extent of it. You're not coming to dinner with us. We're not going to like hang out with you guys and watch TV. You're going to see him, shake his hand, whatever it is. And then we're gone. And so I gave my husband the option. I said, like, if you want to come, you don't have to, and it's not a big deal. So the consensus amongst our coffee guys was that because the friend coming into town is now bald and my husband has great hair because he's a fashion fitness model, they were not worried about the situation anymore because they thought, husband has great hair, this dude is bald, we're fine. And then they took it one step further and said, oh, and he's got a woman's name as well, so he's bald and a woman's name. Yeah, no, we're good. Everything's fine. Then they find out that the friend is in a relationship with a drag queen. And now you have to remember that, because my husband is Brazilian, martial arts, bodybuilder, whatever. He's not the feminine, drag queen type. He's the exact opposite. And so then the guys are all laughing, going, okay, so girl's name, bald, with a drag queen, everything's fine. And so then they're telling my husband, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about them. You know what? Just let them go and do their thing. So I didn't know how to take that, but I get the joke of it all. And so, I gave my husband the option. I said, a lot of it is us going to be talking, reminiscing, right? And talking about the old days. And so you kind of weigh that out and go, well, would I want to sit and listen to, whether or not it's your ex or my husband's ex or not, if it's a friend from childhood, I mean, it's great to meet them, but if I'm not going to understand, the stories and then they're going to have to stop and explain everything to me, it's less funny then, right? Like it's not as, it kind of slows things down. You're almost a third wheel at that point. And so I said, if you want, you can come for lunch with us, or you can, we live not too far from Santa Monica Boulevard. So I said, if you can just, if you want to walk with us and, see us off then, and we'll go in and have a meal and you can do whatever. It's up to you. It doesn't matter to me. I've got nothing to hide. I've got no, you've seen the pictures of us together in the past. I mean, the deal, all this other stuff. So there's nothing hidden. And so he was very cool with it because, again, it's not like, okay, I'm going in my room with him now. We'll come out for him. It's like, we're going to a restaurant. Like, we're going to be in public. And West Hollywood's not very big either. So, I mean, you don't think that's going to get around if all of a sudden people are spotting me doing, wait a second, that's not are they holding hands? What do they do? No, it's not like that at all. So we ended up doing dinner. The three of us, my husband came along. I thought maybe he might be a little bit extra touchy-feely in a sense of just trying to make it visually known that I get to touch Jeremy now, and, that's, this is, I was going to say this is my property. That sounds so odd. Well, that's how my husband would look at it, quite honestly. So, I thought, is he going to do that, right? Is he going to try to, make it seem like, we're together and just overdo it on the touchy-feely kind of stuff? And he didn't really. No, he naturally is anyway, but he didn't go too far, he wasn't grabbing my face and just, making out or whatever at the table, because he's not like that anyway. So yeah, there was, affection and whatever. And like I said, the other guy's in a relationship anyway too, right? So it's not like this was something, like he's trying to get back with me or something. This was, so again, my husband didn't really have fun. And like I said, you give that opportunity. You're not going to understand the stories. We're going to talk about things that aren't going to make sense to you. Maybe we'll explain them to you if the time comes. But, you're kind of just going to be sitting and listening a lot of the time. I mean, that's... so yeah, he was kind of bored. And so then after dinner, then we did kind of split up. My husband ended up coming home. And then you sort of do feel an obligation when somebody comes into your city, especially if it's a city like either West Hollywood or Los Angeles, to... either show them around a little bit or... So and again, because we're right on Santa Monica where we went for dinner, we kind of parted ways. My husband ended up hanging a right and then kind of going back home. And then I said, we can walk the strip and, check out a bunch of the different places that were still open, because there's shops. We were done about 7:30 or not quite 8 o'clock. So a bunch of, the retail stores and the bars are kind of just starting to open up in West Hollywood. It's very much like Nashville, where, there's the kind of the open windows to the street and you can hear the music and everything from the sidewalk, and you can just walk down and hear a bunch of stuff. And, so that was what we did. And, and again, we're in our 40s, right? So this isn't like we were just like, we're 20 now, we're going to go clubbing, whatever. It's like he was in town for work. It's not like this was something that he came to see me specifically, but he was just like, oh, hey, I'm doing this work trip to Los Angeles. You live there and I know that you do. So, somebody's paying me to go to town, right? It's not like I'm flying and I'm spending money to come and see you, but it's like, why not? Use it. I'm in town. I've got the flight. And so we hung out until maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock or so. I'm not a night person. My husband and I, we very rarely are out past even 9. I mean, we go out for dinner a lot, and yeah, we're home by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then we're not, yeah. The coffee guys are the ones that are still in that frat boy stage where they're going out until, 2, 3 in the morning. I don't do the bar. We just don't do things like that. We're not very social outside. And so, yeah, we split up at about 10:30, whatever. He went back to, Los Angeles is not too far from West Hollywood. If you're not familiar, it's actually kind of just literally down the street from WeHo. So he was maybe about, his hotel was probably about 10 or 15 minutes away, which is sort of actually coincidental, just given the size of Los Angeles. And then, yeah, whatever he was there doing, for work, I don't know why he was in. I know why he was there, but I mean, I don't know, the scheduling and whatever. And so that was it. We parted ways, and you get the text of like, oh, nice seeing you, and thanks for showing me around, and there we go. And truthfully, we haven't actually even been in touch since. So that was maybe about, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 or 3. Yeah. So, it's not like it was, oh my God, it was so great seeing you. Hey, let's talk again, and let's talk again, and let's talk again, let's talk again, let's talk again. It wasn't like that at all. So would your ex, get that welcome, or would your partner have an issue with that? What would you do? Again, I think, like I said, a big part of it depends on how your relationship ended, right? If it was civil, if it was just kind of amicable and whatever, then, send me an email, live, Live, at jbonair.com, live at jbonair.com. And that is a wrap for the show this week. So tell me about your exes. Tell me about, do you creep them online? That's another, we didn't get time to talk about that, but are you still kind of watching them from a distance? Maybe you unfriend them, but to search their name, and you can just, right? Because you want to make it look like you're not still attached, right? If they see that you're still following them or you're still a friend, okay, that shows that you're holding on. But you can unfriend, and there's, no problem searching. They wouldn't know that you're still looking at their page unless they block you, and then you can't. But, do you creep an ex when the relationship is over? Do you? Don't lie to me. Don't lie. We're all friends here. Don't lie. Live, Live, at jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up The Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com. Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.